tackling the backbone of what Africa needs to work on, which is unity.
THIONE Niang is a political strategist.
The best of us are in the diaspora building other people's countries.
A social entrepreneur, a farmer.
If I say let's go farm, they gotta see me actually farming.
An author, a community leader.
We can't rewrite the history of Africa without addressing this issue of leadership. It's not about what you're saying, it's about what you do.
Who inspired you?
I just wanted to help my mother. She was struggling a lot. And
who was Thione as a child?
I get emotional even talking about it, so let's...
Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new episode of the Project Umoja Podcast, the Pan-Africanist podcast dedicated to uniting the global African community.
As always, we are your hosts, Fantali, Maurice Wakumakisa, and Abdel Aziz Diko.
And you're listening to the Project Umoja Podcast.
Africa for the Africans.
Je ne vois pas pourquoi nous ne chercherions pas ce qui nous unit au lieu de chercher ce qui nous divise.
La lutte continua.
What is needed? Togetherness. Unity.
Welcome back. We're excited to share this brand new episode of the Project Umoja Podcast with our special guest, Mr. THIONE Niang.
Hello THIONE, Nagadef. Welcome. Akwaba.
Awesome. Now, from the farms of Senegal to the hallways of power in Washington, THIONE Niang's journey has been remarkable, to say the least. THIONE was born in a family of 28 children in Senegal. He immigrated to the United States in 2000 with only $20 in his pockets. While getting involved in his new community, his efforts led him to participate as a community organizer for President Obama in the historic 2008 presidential elections and becoming national co-chair of Gen 44 for the 2012 re-election campaign. THIONE Niang now leads 3 international organizations. The first one is the Give One Project, an organization that promotes global leadership, entrepreneurship, and education for Africans. The second is JeufZone Farms, an agribusiness platform for the production, commercialization, distribution, and conservation of farm products with a priority given to local produce. And the third being Akon Lighting Africa, a project co-founded with the award-winning artist Akon in 2014 with the mission of providing electricity to 600 million African households and communities through sustainable solar energy. On top of all of this, of course, he's an author of 6 books, including Memoirs of an Eternal Optimist, Faces of Change, and even a recent children's book. THIONE, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you all.
Beyond this formal introduction that we just gave for you, we just wanted to have a little bit of a sense of a personal connection with you. So we were wondering if you could tell us something that you won't necessarily put in the bio, but that still defines you.
Listen, I commend the work that you guys are doing. This is something that needs to be done. And you are really, tackling the backbone of what Africa needs to work on, which is unity. We are very divided politically. We are very divided geographically. We are very divided even in the diaspora. And I believe this actually is something that I've took on as a mission to travel around the world and try to connect the dots, the diaspora from Brazil to the United States, North America, Canada, where we are today, but also Europe and all over the world to make sure that we bring our commonalities into the greater challenges that we all share. I was recently talking to Mama Gracias, who's mentoring me, Mandela's wife, and the advice she always gives me is make sure that you focus on your message always to how we can unite this new generation, but also for them to know that we can do better. And it's very, very important that we know and we should do better. How to define, don't just say one word about me. I am an optimist, an eternal optimist, and that means everything. That means that I look for where the problems are and try to find solutions. And we have enough problems at home that needs to be fixed, and I don't dwell on them. I don't just stay on the problems and be very critical about what needs to be done. I take initiatives and work to make sure that I bring solutions on my part and where I am at. So to define one word is I am an eternal optimist.
It's just fascinating to see how your values of eternal optimism really aligns with what you've just said about doing better and doing it together. So thanks for starting us off on such a positive note. And just to continue the discussion, so given that our podcast is solely distributed on the African Heroes magazine platforms, we'd like to know, growing up, who is your African hero? Who inspired you to pursue such an impactful, trajectory?
When I was younger, my professor talked about Kofi Annan, and I was, very much so inspired by what he was doing with the United Nations globally at that time, to see a fine and very intelligent and well-versed black man from Ghana, from Africa, to represent the world in that stage was very inspiring to me, and I was always modeling myself to. Actually, that's actually what got me to go to the United States. I wanted to go to America because I wanted to be like Kofi Annan. I was very inspired by what he was doing, because our professor, 7th grade, was talking about him in our English classes, and I was like, okay, I'm so proud of what he does. I want to be like him one day. So he's definitely one of my inspirations, and God bless his soul. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to meet him till he passed away, but he definitely has a huge legacy on me by everything he represented. Of course, Nelson Mandela was a huge inspiration, and he's still a huge inspiration for me, for what he represented about consistency, about standing for what you believe, and fighting for what you believe, but most importantly, to be able to bringing people in different ideas, and people who don't believe necessarily on what you believe, bringing people that you don't agree with in the same table, talking to the people that you necessarily hurt you, did wrong to you, and you're able to surpass ego, and he would have rightfully, fight back those people who did wrong to him, but were able to see the greater good for everybody, put his personal emotions on the side, and bring those people together to be able to forgive and look for ways to connect everybody. This is something very testimonial to me, and it's a huge lesson for me while I move around the world to talk to people and to young people, and I'm trying to find solutions for my own continent, but also trying to find solutions for my own character, try to build continue to build myself as a leader and as an example, and then hope for so many young people. I'm not perfect, so I have to develop and learn about from those leaders who's been there, who've did it, who's done it. So I'm trying to model myself to them, and the lessons of Nelson Mandela is still resounding to me. That's why I got close to his widow, and our dear mother, Mama Graça Marshall, who mentored me a lot about values and what we need to stand for and how we need to approach it. So definitely Nelson Mandela is one of our greatest inspirations for me. And Nkrumah is because of the fougue he had to come back home and organize and drive the change that was needed. And I think that's what you guys are doing right now. If you look at, it's just the times that's changed, but it's the same thing, eh? When you look at, the movements back home in the early 50s to the 60s, what brought those movements that brought us up to independence, they were students like you. They were in the diaspora. Some of them was all over the world. You just got the luckiest one, because now we all can connect on the phone and this meeting technology, be able to talk without not being in the same room. It was more difficult for them, but this was the form of organizing they were doing, talking to each other, creating la négritude pour les francophones and les anglophones to be together, and having that assembly where all Africans were together to try to liberate the continent. And they were able to first liberate the country of Ghana, and then that inspired all other countries like Guinea, Senegal, Ivory Coast, and etc. and etc. They've done their job, right? So now you guys are on the same track, and I'm glad to see that the torch has been passed in a generation that's very educated, that you are. Congratulations for your background and then you're doing something also very important, because I'm listening to all of you introduce yourself. It's like, okay, I've done this, I'm working on this now, but I'm also going back to study this again. And this is all preparing you for leadership roles, to responsibilities that's waiting for you to take on. Yes, to answer to your question, those are the people that really inspired me when it comes to leadership. And lastly, in my first book, I talk about my grandfather and my mother. My grandfather inspired me a lot on ways to give back. We came from a very poor family. He's put in a lot of responsibility on me very young. He's the one that always told me, out of the 28 brothers and sisters we had, that you will be the one taking care of the family. And I was not the first child. I was the 12th out of the 28. And he told me straight up that at the age of 7, 8, 9 years old, you have a responsibility. I will not be here to witness it, but he kept putting that pressure on me. So he gave me that. He believed in me very early on, but nobody even saw that in me. And to my mother, she showed me about being kind to people, and that everybody is struggling with something. Make sure that you always bring light to people's lives. Don't be a dark to people's lives, and learn to be an addition, positivity and energy to serve people wherever you go in the world. My mom taught me that kindness, and I carry that on around the world wherever I go. I try to make sure that everybody I meet, I try to give them a legacy of hope, so they can go on and turn on more lights throughout the world, and especially to our continent.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really great to hear you talk about these things, because a lot of the leaders you brought up, the lessons you've learned from them, the lessons that you're learning from your journey as well and from your family, we're going to get a chance to explore a lot of these themes. And one of the things that you actually don't talk about a lot, but you mentioned with your grandfather and your mother, you spoke about your childhood. A lot of people know the Thione that went to the U.S., that succeeded, that's coming back, and that's working to build our continent. But before we get into that, who was Thione as a child? Like, what were your thoughts on Senegal and the African continent as a young child? And throughout the interview, we'll get a chance to see how these thoughts evolve. But let's talk about a young Thione. What was his thoughts on the world? And
That's a great question. I never got this kind of questions. You are right. People are always interested about America, the passage, and they skip these very important things. And I talk about it in my books, but especially in my first book, Memoir, The Eternal Optimist. But people who don't read it usually, they don't hear it in interviews. You know, the Thione, this was just, the young Thione was just a young African wondering about what tomorrow will be like, who were missing a bit of everything, you know, who were missing affection from family. We don't know that in many of our countries in Africa. Your family loves you, but they never tell you they love you. You just see it by their eyes and their actions. And as a kid, you watch those cartoons from overseas. You see this, your peers around the world in those films getting, gifts, and they knowing their birthdays and celebrating birthdays and having this attention from their families, telling them I love you, and things like that. But you missing those pieces, and I'm missing also a lot of other things like just what the regular kid will have. I was born just right away. Struggling to get the ends meet at the house, in my grandfather's house. Sometimes we stayed 3 to 4 days, no food in the house. We struggled to just get food every day. We lived in a house, we didn't have electricity, so it was difficult for me to study. And usually when my grandfather had little change, he will give us money to buy candles, and sometimes we don't have, so I'll have to wake up early in the morning to study. And all of those things was very heavy on me, but I was still a kid. I liked to play soccer. I was very good at it, so I became very good at playing soccer. I was actually in a soccer academy in Kaolack, and just being a kid playing around and doing what everybody does. But in my head, I knew that I had responsibility ahead of me, not only for my family. I didn't know it was going to go this big globally. That's why I tell young people always start small and do something good, and it will open other doors. Circumstances will happen where you will do bigger things when you do good things very well. That's something I always mention to young people. You, like what you're doing right now, you don't know where it's going to take you, you know, because you can start this interview. Next thing you interview Oprah Winfrey, you interview a couple of presidents, you interview regular people who are doing great things. And then next thing you know, what door will open for you? We don't know. We don't know. So just do something good. I was just try to make something happen. And then now, growing up from that environment, I wanted to. Everything was against me. We didn't have the means. So I decided to leave Kaolack to go to Dakar. And when I went to Dakar after high school, it was difficult for me to get a visa to come to the United States. And I started working after school as apprenti maçon, you know, helping people who are building, carrying bricks every day to be able to have, you know, 20,000 francs, 10,000 francs at that time. It was only $20 to be able to get the stamps to get a passport. My first passport, I remember I worked as an apprenti maçon. I was very skinny, you know, and I was just, you know, carrying bricks. I got really tired, and at the end of they were paying us 1,000 francs par jour, you know, travailler de 8 heures. We were working from 8 o'clock to 7 p.m. and they don't give you lunch or nothing. You're just carrying bricks, giving it to the people who are working, you know, mixing the ciment, the sable, and carrying it all the time. So on the 28th days, I couldn't wait for the time to come for me to get paid. You get paid at the end of the month. And the 28th days, I got sick. I collapsed. They took me to the hospital. And when they brought me my salary to the hospital, it was 28,000 CFA. I was very excited. That was my first salary. And so when I got out of the hospital, I was able to go get my passport because I had my dream that I wanted to go to America and I wanted to study there, you know, see how it is and maybe be in the UN one day, be the leader of the UN, be like Kofi Annan, you know. So I was excited to get the passport and I started going to the Centre Culturel Français to learn about the schools, how to go to America. At that time, it wasn't like now, you know. Now you go to your phone, you do your research, you email, and then they get back to you, and you go to the websites. We didn't have websites, we didn't have internet, so you had to go to the library, and you go to a section where they have literature about American universities. If there's books, you're good. If they're not, you have no chance. So I find universities in America, you write all the addresses, and then you write them letters, and I'll take some of my money and buy stamps, and I'll post them up. I put it in the post, and hoping one day somebody will respond to me, you know. The rest of the money I send to my mom a little. And it take 4 or 5 months after, I received, I wrote to many universities in the US that I want to come to school there, translated my grades and all that stuff. And then one day I remember coming from school, I was doing my baccalaureate, and my grandma in Dakar just told me, you have some mail over here that came into the house. I said, wow, man. I went to open the mail. Is this American universities coming? I was so happy, man. I was so happy. I went to my room, excited, going through it. But I didn't understand all the English. I had to go to my English teacher to help me. And, you know, they sent me I-20s, which is the acceptance letter to be able to go to school in the US. And I thought I won a prize. So I called my mom and everybody told them about it and went to the embassy, get an appointment. Unfortunately, when I went for the visa 3 months later, they denied me. And at that time, in the American embassy in the Senegal, if you get denied, you have to wait for another, 3 months, 4 months. You have to come back, and I'll write a letter again and wait. I come back, they denied me again. 2 years, man. Every time I go, they deny me. So 4 times they denied me the visa. So the last time, you know, because I didn't have money, they asking for money in your bank account. I told them I don't have the money, but I know I'll figure it out when I get there, you know. I looked at the uncles who had the money. Maybe they can help with the, bank accounts to help me out, to just show I can do it. But one time I came to the last one. I was exhausted at this time, very disappointed. And I just wanted to help my mother. She was struggling a lot. And I knew that I had to get out of here to look for opportunities to change her life. And it's a promise I made to her when I was 7 that one day I will change her life, you know. And then, the guy is an older guy in the Guichet 4 asked me, you want to go to the US in Cleveland? I said, yeah, I just want an opportunity. And I started crying because I was just very tired of rejection. And he looked at me, and I know as a father, he probably just felt that he deserves a chance. He just said, what you're going to do, you're going to do well when you go, but if you promise me you will do well, I know you don't have all of your papers, but I will give you a chance. I said, I need that chance, man. I want to help mom, man. I get emotional even talking about it. So let's move to the next one. But that's how I got the visa, and then it became a whole big problem, you know, because I got my visa in January 2000, and and you know, I called my mother and said, listen, I got my visa to the US. She couldn't believe it. Nobody in my family ever traveled overseas. They never even left Dakar, you know. That was not a part of anybody's dream, you know. So now, mom telling me, okay, where we gonna get the flight from? That was the real question, you know. I said, wow, man, I got a student visa, 3-year student visa, and I can't find the ticket. You know, we go everywhere, my mom. We borrow the money. We go to a commerçant. On va aller voir le commerçant à côté. My grandfather left me the papers of his house, so we go to hypothéquer un peu partout, but no chance. January, February, March, April, May. It's 5 months. I'm still in Senegal, and school is opening up. Summer school session was opening up in May, and I couldn't come. And I was lost, you know. I was lost. It was a difficult moment, man, where I was in a deep hole. And you know, the ticket just cost 500,000 CFA at the time. It was like, you know, less than $1,000, man. I mean, 400,000, 300,000. It was like $500 at that time with Air Africa, and we couldn't find it. You know, all of my hopes was just, you know, and then I gave up, to be honest with you. I gave up. I just like, I won't go nowhere. I'll stay home and just, you know, just lost. One day my mom called me and said, hey, I heard Daud and one of your cousins is an immigrant guy in Japan, is in town, and maybe we should go and ask him. I said, Mom, I can't. You know, everywhere I go, they will know our problems, but they will not help us. So I'm very desperate right now. I don't want to do that anymore. But you know, with mothers, they're always gonna try. She went there herself, and fortunately, the guy told him for me to meet him in Dakar the next day. And I was already in Dakar. I met him. He said, okay, I will give you the ticket. When you go, you work and you pay me. I said, no problem. He took me downtown. We bought the ticket. When you want to go? I said, tonight. If it's a flight, I'll leave tonight because I will miss school, you know. So we went, buy the ticket, and I remember him coming out with the US dollars and paying with US dollars. And there was $20 left. He gave me that. He said, well, this is all I have left. I said, that's fine. I'll use that as my argent de poche, which is 10,000 francs CFA. Then we called a family member who picked me up as he's a taxi driver in the Bronx. That's how I landed in the United States.
I mean, you probably get asked this question often, but your story just reminded me of just the fact that this is the story of so many young Africans on the continent today, you know, who dream and aspire to go abroad, but who don't necessarily have this chance. And in your case, 2 almost angels helped you get there, and you were given the chance by the person at the embassy and, you know, one of your distant relatives who was able to buy your plane ticket for you. But had you not, you know, received this chance from them, would you have considered taking the dangerous route, perhaps, of crossing the Sahara and the Mediterranean to go to Europe, to eventually be able to come elsewhere, like the US, for example?
No, that was never a point for me. I never thought I was going to go to Europe. That's one thing. All my friends that I had baccalaureate with, they all tried to go to America. French was easier for all of us, but I never was tempted to. And they always told me, well, you should try in France because you have good grades, so you should go. I said, no, I'm not interested on that. I was not also, I saw some people around me, not my friends, but they was taking the boats, going to cross to go to Europe and do illegal immigrants. I never believed in illegal immigration. Even coming to the US, I always said, if it's not legal, I'm not doing it. Because I value my freedom. And I knew from high school that I was bound to be a part of leadership positions. I was the head of the English club. I was the head of the youth group in the school. And always, even when I was playing soccer, I was, you know, there's always a kid there that's leading stuff. It was in me. And I knew I have to do things right. If I can't do it right, I won't do it. It's always something I always tell to young people. Do the right thing. Because when you do the right thing, right things will happen to you. I can be now discouraged, like I was. I can be hopeless where I hit the wall and I don't have anybody else to show me, you know, where to go. Is the window. Maybe you should crack the wall to come out, to go find a way to do it. I hit the wall. I went down in the dark. but there was no way in life that I thought about, going illegal immigrants. I wouldn't do that. Now, what happened to me though, is when I came to America, because I stayed too long, and when I came to school, I had to stop in the Bronx and find a job. So when I stayed in the Bronx and find a job, I stayed from July till July, May, June, July, till end of July. Now summer school is almost finished. I'm in there cleaning tables, find a job, and the Chevy's restaurant in New Rochelle. I was every day there cleaning tables to get some money. Okay, so I called the school in Cleveland, Cuyahoga County at the time, and I told them that I am in the U.S., but I'm gonna come to class on the fall. And the lady told me, the advisor in the school told me, well, there is an issue because you should have come straight to school in summer school, but because you got to study English first as English as a second language, but because you stayed there, your visa gonna have some problems. I said, wow. So right away, I quit the job. I was very scared about that, so I took concerned. So I took the Greyhound with $800, then I ended up in Cleveland. So I went to meet Pamela, that lady at that time, and the student counselor, international affairs. She told me, listen, the only solution. I said, where's the solution? She said, the only solution now, we have to reapply reinstatement visa, because you have three years student visa. But because you stayed in New York working and you're not allowed to do that, you're only allowed to work 25 hours a week as an international student without the papers yet. So now your visa is messed up. So we have to reapply for a reinstatement visa. But I'll tell you, 99% of the people who did it, they got rejection. If you get rejection from the immigration, you need to leave the country ASAP. And you will never have a papers in this country. I said, what's the other option? The other option is you leave the country now, you go to London or Canada or back to Senegal, then you can reapply the visa at the embassy. If they will give you, then you come back. You leave and come back. But leave and come back also is a risk because they might tell you didn't go to school, so they might not give it to you. I said, no, that's not an option, man. I ain't doing that, man. Shoot. No, I ain't leaving. It took me 4 years to be here. I can't do that. She's like, man, that's what I advise you, because when you do that, it's safer, because when you do reapply, 99% did it from here and they get rejected. I say, listen, I am an optimist. I would rather go with that one. I took the risk. In life also, you have to be able to take risk. Qui risque rien n'a rien. And in risking like that, I tell you that 1 month in all July to September before school opened, I didn't sleep one night, man, waiting for results. But thankfully, when she called me and said, okay, the results came in and they gave you reinstatement for the 3 years, man, I jumped, man. So yeah, to answer to your question, I try to do things right, and right things happen to me. And everyone listening as a young person, whatever you want to do in life, do the right thing. And we all know the right thing inside of us. When the right thing speaks to you, just do it. And if it's not right, don't do it, because it's like a tennis ball. It will just come back to you.
Absolutely. I don't know. One of the things that you made me think of, how old were you when you first came? Just really quick.
I was 22. I was born in 1978, so I was 22 when I came to America in 2000. From a francophone country, we didn't speak English, so it was very difficult with the language barrier. It was difficult with, and just the culture. America was very, very speed for us, It's simple things. You go in Senegal, we can spend, hours doing salam alaikums, doing nothing. Just, what's up? How you doing? How's mom? How's aunt? We can spend 10, 15 minutes just doing it. And now I'm in this country where we're in the elevator, nobody say hi to each other. Everybody's looking at each other like, if you say hello, how are you? They're looking like, I don't know you, dude. I mean, where you come from? So this was very strange to me, and a lot of different things. I had to readjust everything. I remember I had an interview in Cleveland with the high school I was working, when I went to work to teach French. So when I came, the guy who was interviewing me that's the director of the school, is talking to me, asking me questions where I have my head like this, you know. You know, in Senegal, in Africa, most of it, like when you're talking to your elders, you look down. It's a sign of respect. And the guy is telling me, well, you know, I don't know if I can hire you because you're not looking at me. I say, wow, man, because in our culture, when you're looking at each other, it doesn't mean you don't respect them, especially when you're older than me and you are like my father's age. He said, no, no, in the United States, when you talk to somebody, especially when they interview you, you look them straight in the eye. And these are like cultural differences I had to learn while I was there. And then just being alone by yourself in a country that you don't have family is something that's very difficult, man. That's why I care so much about the diaspora, because I know what they're living from, man. I'm from them. I understand them, you know.
I think oftentimes, you know, folks who achieve like this level of success often, you know, highlight just the positive and, you know, the highs. So it's definitely nice to hear the highs and the lows. So now that we know a bit more about, you know, your journey to the States, I'd like to know a bit more about your projects. Earlier on, you mentioned that your mom, you know, sort of inspired you and talked about lighting something in others through kindness. I mean, you took that quite literally through your project in energy investment, but you also have a wide array of engagements in agriculture, education. So why did you choose these specific areas?
Well, all the project that I'm doing with is related to my frustrations growing up, everything. I don't just do business to make money. I don't do any projects that just solely focus on money. Everything I'm doing is purposefully focused on my journey and my reason why I am alive, you know. I lacked of energy, so I wanted to create opportunities for people to have energy. You know, I was frustrated that, you know, millions of other people in the world have access to energy, and us, including my family, can have decent energy. And if those who have energy next to our houses, there's always shortages in Senegal at that time. So we can stay all day without no electricity in the home. When you want to watch a football game, there's no electricity. When you want to watch your favorite cartoon, there's no electricity. When you want to study, there's no electricity. So I said, one day, I want to do something about this. So when God gave me the opportunity, that's one thing I made sure I told Akon we're going to go through energy. When he come to visit me in Washington, I say, let's go invest in energy. Give one project, when I get out with the Obama campaign, when the president invited us in the White House to talk to us about things, I was thinking about, okay, all of these opportunities that I didn't have, all of these bridges that I didn't have to walk on, now I can create it. Now God has shown me I can do anything. From not having something to eat in Senegal to now being in the White House, man, with the first black president of the United States in the history of America and the world. I'm here. I'm a Senegalese from Kaolack, like just 8 years ago at that time. I didn't even know I would be able to get a job in the US. Now I'm here. And as a leader in this campaign, I'm like, this is not simple, man. I would be very, you know, I'll be like somebody who don't have no vision to go and just get a job and stay in the White House here and just get a salary. You know, I have to take this to the maximum. I have to use this to empower those young people who are dealing like me 2 years ago when I was an apprenti mason. How I make sure those young people who can even have the job as apprenti mason to survive, I give them hope. I give them hope that President Obama gave me, the hope that, you know, Dr. King and the likes gave him. Now it's on me to give that back to the continent, to the young people, globally, but especially in Africa. I was thinking about that, seriously. And I said, okay, it's time to create something bigger than what I've done here in this campaign. Because the campaign taught me the power of grassroots organizing from the bottom roots, from the bottom up. I know how to do that. I know how to organize from nothing to bring people in common goals and work for it. Then from there, I started that night, the idea of give. I say it has to be something give. Give what? I don't know. Okay, but after my work in Congress, I was working every day. Then I launched the Give One project. Again, giving back is in my purpose. towards young people is my second project. The third project, JeufZone Farm, again, going back home, seeing everything we have, all of the opportunities God has given us, the richest on earth. We are Africans. We are the richest natural resources there over there. Whatever you need, sun is over there. Climate is beautiful. We just have sun every time in the year, while people are struggling with snow, earthquakes, and etc. We just blessed, man. Then I couldn't see. Next to us, we have an ocean, fish everywhere, man. The youngest generation. And then people giving us food. Even fish on the can. We have fish, all the fish coming from us. But les fish, les thon, les can, it comes from Europe. They sell it back to us. I didn't understand that. You know, rice. Well, we have rivers, all kinds of stuff. So I decided, okay, your country, Congo itself, could give us everything we need. Guinea, look at Guinea. It's a mistake in nature, your other country. But then I say, okay, I can't complain. I can't blame nobody. I don't believe in blaming people when I don't do my part. I always believe that we all have a responsibility to play first. You know, I see people who commend themselves by attacking other people of what they shouldn't do or what they should do. I see people who validate themselves that they participate by demonizing other people in the internet or social media to show that they are wrong. Even if they are wrong, to me, I want to drive that energy in creating something, no matter how small it is, as a solution to the problem that I see. That's how I operate. So I launched the JeufZone Farm. I went buy a farm. I could have taken the money and go travel the world, or buy homes like many business people do, and just live my private life. But to me, in my purpose, I have to bring change. So I launched the JeufZone Farm. Then when I started farming, I saw our young people need to learn about this. Then I built from zero the school inside the farm and start teaching farming. My role in this is not only to farm, but to make agriculture attractive to young people. So we can create a movement of young farmers who will control what we eat in Africa and feed the world in the long term. And that's my one for JeufZone, why the reason for JeufZone. The last one recently is the Give One Project Digital Academy, the same thing. When I saw the world is moving, we missed the first revolution, then we missed the second revolution. Unfortunately, we missed the third revolution, and we are missing the fourth revolution. And it's hurtful to see that. The entire world is moving. We only just telecharge it, we download, but we don't put nothing up. Young people are learning about artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, data, science, everything robotic. In my room here in the hotel, they send stuff. They bring me a robot to come to my hotel to bring my mail, knocking on my door. When I come out, he's waiting for me, and he went downstairs. I've never seen something like that. It's young people like us, like younger generation, who are doing it here in Canada. Now, to me, it's okay, what can I do? I'm not a president. I'm not an elected official, so I can't make any laws or give scholarships to do that. But what I can do in my capacity is build a school, put my resources, and then without no financing, all personal money, I built a school and called it the Give One Project Digital Skills Academy. And today, it's teaching young people cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, the robotics, and everything is about data science. So that was my answer to that frustration. And lastly, about the books, to me, I always was so frustrated too. I'm a vivid reader. I read all the time. And I see our literature, we don't have our generation, people like us writing. And somebody are always telling our story. People travel to Africa to be a Peace Corps for 1 year, 2 years, become an expert, start writing for us. You know, in our schools, everything we're studying, most of it comes from the West. Who's going to write our own stories for our children? If I write about Memoir de Nocturnal Optimist, I know it's the story I'm writing for you and for me and our children, because my story is your story. In Memoir of a Nocturnal Optimist, everything I talk about is what every immigrant is going through. But if we don't do it, somebody else will do it on us. When I start writing, I don't stop anymore. Now I write about everything. Then when I saw, growing up, the cartoons we watch is always from Europe or from otherwhere. You know, my daughter in the US, it was hard for me to find her cartoons from Africa. Now it's beginning, but it's not enough. You know, the children's book is not enough. I don't see no children's books that's teaching about my culture to my children in the diaspora. I say, it's time to write it. I got the story. You know, what I do, I have to write. That's why I started the children's book. And the first one is 5 tomes. It's Gorgui l'enfant optimiste. It's a wonderful stories of our culture, of where we come from, of dignity, of excellence, of the best of us. And I know the children will learn much from that. And the 5 tomes are done. Now I hired young people working on the cartoon. Next year, the cartoons will go up. So they have in YouTube, everywhere they go, they can go while they're working, play for their children to learn about, you know, Senegalese and African cultures and our values and everything that's coming from an African writer. You know, so the dessin animé, and that's what we're working on next. That's what drives my projects.
Yeah, and we'll get into your projects in more depth in just a second. But I just wanted to ask you this first. So, as someone who managed to actually achieve great things in America, to quote unquote live his American dream, because let's face it, you're sort of like the epitome of the American dream, came to America with $20 in his pockets and then eventually ended up working with President Obama later on. I'm just wondering, from that point on, did you feel a sense of comfort? Did you feel like you could stay in America and live your life and not have to look back at the continent anymore? What made you at that point decide to return to the continent to actually make a change instead of, you know, sometimes we think about returning and we think about the challenges more than we think about the opportunities. So how did that work out for you?
You know, in the beginning, it was never in my mind that I was going to the US to study, you know, and stay there and live there, die there, whatever, you know. To me, I was pushed out of Africa to go overseas to solve some problems. First, the problems of poverty in my own house. Okay? So I wanted to make sure my mom and my brothers and sisters are comfortable. Then later on, to come back and help be a part of the development of my country and my continent. I never let that left me. No matter how high I went to the US, that never left my sight, man. Every night when I went to bed, I thought about one day I'll go home. And when is that day gonna happen? Every night. You know how when we're leaving home to come to the overseas, we have this burning desire that it's time to go to prove we can do it and to go build. We all had that. Except for those who were born here, us who always was immigrants. Some of you were born here, your parents had that leaving to do something for home one day. No matter how difficult, your home might be going to war. You're thinking about how to come and fix it because that's the relationship I have with home. Home is home. Nothing can replace it, no matter how beautiful it is here. But I never had that left me, man. You know, so I was always thinking about it. And, you know, at one point I remember in Ohio, I was very popular in Ohio. Everybody knew me. I knew everybody. I was running the Young Democrats, the first black to be elected. So Cleveland, I was the THIONE NIANG from Africa, but the proud son of Cleveland, because I built a lot of people. I built a lot of politicians. I supported everybody. My events was always full. I was in the media. I was in the mix of everything in the Democratic Party. So the political establishment started talking to me started thinking to run for office. Whether it's for mayor, or start with city council, or later on for governor. I don't know. And I knew if I stayed in Ohio, I'll have a political career there, you know, because that's what I was doing fully, and very good at it. But then there, I started really struggling with myself, you know, because I knew right away. Okay, I asked myself, okay, John, if you are elected here, and now you're serving only solely the interests of the United States, even though it's your country too, you're a citizen of both countries. But are you mostly needed here or you're mostly needed in Africa? I kept asking myself questions. Are you more needed here or are you more needed in Africa? With your experience here, can you do more here for our people or can you do more for our people back home? It was never about me. If it was only for me to answer to your question, I would stay. I'll have a political career in the US, or I'll just be a political strategic consultant, and I'll do well with that, you know, because I know how to strategize. But then my answer was always, you are mostly needed back home. You're here to learn, you're mostly needed back home. It's the doing the right thing. It's the right thing behind me telling me, yeah, it's all beautiful here. You are respected. You are this, you are that. You might not be respected. You might be difficult back home, but you are needed back home. That will be aligned with your purpose. And God helped me during the Acorn Lighting Africa to see when we go to those villages in Guinea, in Congo, in Kenya, in Senegal, in other countries, then I saw that I'm really now needed there. I got really emotional in those trips. They're like, wow, I was comfortable in America, but I'm needed here. So I have to make the return. That's when I decided I'm going to leave. You know, it was not an easy process to my family, to my even family in the US, in Senegal, I mean. They didn't understand what was going on, what happened to me, but I was walking my purpose, and I'm happy doing that. Was it challenging? Of course it is challenging at home. You saw it all in the internet. They gave me a hell over there. They gave me a hard time, but was it easy in the US? No, it wasn't easy either. Life is not easy nowhere. We have to just choose our battles. And I like this battle because it gives me a reason why to be alive. Because there's no life without challenge. And if we live without a challenge, our life makes no sense. We need to make room for something else to come in, you know? You know, we got to be like those leaves that fall and the new leaves to come out, and beauty that more oxygen to the earth. If we can't give no more energy while we're here. And my energy comes from those challenges in creating new projects that can, you know, empower the world and empower my continent and these young people like you guys. And I know if I'm not able to reach it, or if I'm not here to see what I'm working for, it's okay. Because I know some of these young people behind will pick it up and move it forward, you know, like I'm doing for my elders, right? Mandela, them are not here, but the piece of them are in me. You know, and I know a piece of me, I left it yesterday when I was here speaking to those young people in Canada, and those ones in France, and maybe in you, you know. Voila, the question, the response for that question.
You're talking about something that's very profound. It's very core to our culture, putting the community first before us as individuals, you know. And I think it's very important that you mentioned that, because a lot of people are listening. And sometimes being in the diaspora, which is a little bit more individualistic, specifically in the West, we forget how important it is for us to think about all of us globally, right? I want you to tell us about, you know, I want us to get into more of the practical aspects of going back home, because there's a lot of people listening to you that are trying to plan things but aren't exactly sure how to, you know, address certain challenges, regardless of where they come from, whether they came from the continent more recently or they're African Americans, Brazilians, Haitians, whatever it might be. One of the challenges I've recognized that you face, for example, is that your English is very good. Your Wolof is incredible. Your French is great, but it's not as great as your English or your Wolof, right? And a lot of Africans that come from Francophone countries and have traveled to, you know, Anglophone countries sometimes lose their French. This isn't specific to them either. If you're Tanzanian and you live abroad, you might not speak Swahili as well. If you're Ethiopian, you might lose Amharic. If you're African American, you might not have any connection to any of the local languages. So how did you overcome these language barriers and these cultural challenges that, you know, have been put on us because of that us leaving and being in the diaspora? How did you overcome it and be so successful in your projects?
It's a good question. I mean, I think you got to be able to adapt. And I made mistakes too. You know, going back, I've made some mistakes. I stumbled down a little bit, you know. I had that little arrogance on us, not on the negative side, but just, you know, not forgetting to switch it off when you leaving the diaspora, going back home, and that knowing your new territory, even though this is your background, this is your home, you lost touch, you lost contact. So there is a lot of part of the culture that you don't have anymore. You know, being on time, example, you know, things like that, like being straight at stuff, making things very quick and with excellence, detail oriented, you know, taking your time, but time is time of the essence, that you need it right now. You want to do it well, but now, you know, those things. And it frustrates a lot of people, speaking your mind, having your own opinion in everything that's around you, and it's not well seen. And I had to learn to switch it off now, to learn to adapt. When you're in Rome, you do what Romans do. It doesn't mean I have to lower my my standards, but I had to come down in the level that many of the people around there, they have not seen what I've seen. I've traveled in more than 100 countries, so I've seen a lot of stuff. I've experienced a lot of things. You've seen a lot of different things here that many of the young people that are working around me will never have the chance to see. They don't see what else we do as work. The only thing they see is what they are around since they were born. Now, it's not on them to come to my level. It's on me to come down to their level and help them, show them something they haven't seen. And this took time for me to understand. In that meantime, I made mistakes that taught me lessons that I want to share with the diaspora. That's why my next book that's coming out in March is that. It's about everything I've learned coming home, everything you need to know going back home from my own experience. And I had to write that book because a lot of us make that mistakes when you go home, that we come in to teach them, we come in to show them, we come in to make things better without speaking their language. I'm not talking about language, but like dealing with how they operate first. Right. For the language barriers, you know, it was difficult for me because in the beginning, after 10 years in the US first, on the first part of my stay in I started traveling to France and other places. But you know how English is. When you are very fluent and you don't speak French as much, you begin to lose it, the fluency of it. Some French people don't believe me when I say that, but you are Anglophone, you know, especially living in the US, you at least in Montreal, you get a chance to speak French sometimes. But in America for 10 years, I was deep in American politics. I was in Ohio, where you don't even hear anything else. No Spanish, nothing. It's all English. Right. I think in English, I speak in English, I do everything in English. So when I came to France, they started giving me a microphone, telling me to speak in French. I'm like, no, I can't. Well, you're from Senegal, so but what? That's not my language. You know, half of my life I'm in America, so I'm not speaking your language. My language is Wolof now. I was born with that. I can speak that everywhere I go. The French was not. So I had to make the efforts now to come back, since I've been going back, to be able, but still, I'm still struggling with that. It's a continuous, it's a process. It's better than what it was before, but the language issue will be there. But the international world today, the world speaks English. So when you speak English, you can go anywhere and speak it, you know. But we make efforts to make sure we accommodate the others so we can understand each other more. That's why I'm trying hard to speak French back the way I want to, you know, that can be understood. But to go back, the advice I can give is just learn to be like water. Water is able to take the form of anything you put there. It's fluid. It can move around and take the form. It takes forms, you know. And you keep it in one place, it goes away. It goes away, or it goes bacteria, it goes bad. You can't use it anymore. You can't contain water. So you have to have that character of a water to be able to, wherever you are, you take that form, you adapt to it, and then you go through that, and then you grow. So that's how we can do it when we are home to be able to be successful. But nevertheless, there's challenges. But the greatest opportunities are where the challenges are.
Yeah.
When there's no challenge, there's no opportunity.
Yeah, you spoke earlier about something that's important to you, which is feeding the continent. And that's a challenge right now for the African continent. Obviously, we have a lot of arable land. 70% of the world's arable land is on the continent, actually. But it's a continent that's also growing. And there's a youth bulge. Demographically, we're growing, and we need to feed people. And right now, that's what you're investing in, and you're investing specifically in agriculture. You're a farmer now. So I just wanted to know a little bit more about, you know, JeufZone's farms as a project for you. What does that mean to you specifically? And how can people actually also invest in that industry in Africa right now? What are some of the opportunities in various regions, in various countries? And what is some advice that you can give practically to people who want to actually get involved in agriculture on the continent?
Well, JeufZone Farm is a very personal project for me. It's very personal. It's very, very serious, man. Because I just can't accept for people to continue to give us food, man. I just can't. It's very personal to me. So I give everything I have to that project because I know the young people I'm training there will drive that change. We, in few years from now, not only feed Africa but feed the world. I know that, and and people can get involved. They are getting involved. The diaspora is getting involved by. I opened up on the JeufZone Farm Share, which allows the diaspora to get involved and invest as little as $200 to $10,000. You can send your investment with my team, and they will send you the contract, and then you will watch every 4 months your money growing. Not only your money growing, you're gaining. Instead of just banking your money here, not doing anything, or you can participate to create jobs, create values, and participate in this movement, economic movement that we are creating. That's why when I send it out, a lot of the diaspora surprisingly got involved. You know, so many of them here in Canada, in France, in Brazil, everywhere. But you can come home by being here too, because there's a lot of the diaspora who are here, and they're investing in the JeufZone farm shares, contributing to create jobs over there, allowing us to scale up what we're doing in a bigger level, allowing us to get faster to our goals while they are making money. And so I advise the diaspora that are here listening to us today to do the same, not only in JeufZone, but they can do it in other projects that they trust, that they can create values while they are participating financially. Sometimes it's not only finances, but they can even participate with the know-how. If you are good at video editing, reach out to a young person out back home and teach them how to do it. If you are good at coding with the internet, you can do that. If you are good with strategy or disruptive innovation, whatever you are good at, marketing, we need that back home. Reach out to those thousands or hundreds of young people following you on Instagram and Facebook, and just do once a month tutoring for them, like we do it in Google Meet or wherever. And that you'll have the sense of knowing that you are actually participating in building the continent. So that's where I look at what the diaspora can do. And my role now is to make sure I remind that to our brothers and sisters in the continent. You don't have to really pack and leave right away. Right. You can do it from here. And lastly, take your time to plan well before you go all the way back home. I mean, take your time means that organize it very well, because there is a cultural shock that you don't think about sometimes, that you need to really plan about. You know, financially you have to make sure that you have your stuff together, but you also have to study everything you got to do there and make sure you are ready. And know in your head before you arrive, like you did before you come here, that it's going to be challenging, but you are not going to give up. You're going to go through the difficulties, through the rain, through the thunder, until the light comes out of the tunnel. But many of us, when we come and it gets too hard, we say, oh, it's easier in Canada, you know what I'm saying, in the US or France, so I might just go back because here they don't accept me, nobody want to help me. Nobody going to help you but yourself, as nobody helped you here but yourself. So expect for anybody when you go home to make it easy for you. Like nobody did that for you here. You have to create your opportunities. And this is the reality. I'm being very honest, that I had to leave myself going there. But now I got it. So that's what I can answer about that point of going back and participating, and also, you know, getting involved from here in investments.
It's incredibly insightful to hear about the different ways in which the different forms that diaspora engagement can take place. And I think that really ties into also the idea of building partnerships beyond relationships, but partnerships when it comes to different projects or initiatives you're putting forward. And I want to draw in the example and a recent discussion that was had regarding the Sommet Afrique France that took place. And one interesting tension, and maybe we could even frame it as a controversy, pertain to how the summit was organized, you know, with the absence of African head of states. And there's this certain power dynamics that's also inherent in some of the current partnerships. So when you bring up the idea of, you know, diaspora, members of the diaspora, you know, investing and, you know, engaging differently, that could also be seen as like a disruptive way of engaging and building these partnerships. So I'd like to get your thoughts on this type of summit, and more generally on what are some of the challenges or thoughts that you've had to put into when building and solidifying partnerships within your own initiatives, and taking account these different partnerships, values that sustain these projects.
Well, look, I think, you know, partnership is needed. Partnership, bilateral partnership also is needed. What's not needed is, you know, us not taking our responsibility to what we should do and wait for somebody else to do it. Meaning that I don't see France or the US inviting young Australians or young Swiss, teaching them how to run their country. I don't see France inviting young Canadians in France, even though they are closer to Canada than they are to us, teaching them about the future of how to run their country. I just don't see America accepting its future leaders being trained in Africa about our beliefs, about our system, about polygamy, about, you know, living in community the way we do, in the way that we have our own system. I don't see any American even going to be falling into that. And I don't see it to be, even if it was happening somewhere, I don't see that being a mainstream. Imagine if all TVs and everybody in America, which is diaspora, watching, stopping everything they're doing for 2 weeks talking about, you know, a small country like France, inviting the children, teaching them how to run America in the future. It makes no sense to me. That's why I didn't comment about it. Because I don't want to give it no value. It doesn't have no value to me. I mean, I believe in partnership. I think that we need our fair partnership. As the US is partnering with France, China is partnering with all of them. Africa also should partner with them, but in a win-win situation. I think it wasn't the role of Macron or the government of France to gather the young people of Africa, talking about the relationship, talking about the future of Africa with France. France is one small country, man, with no natural resources like us. How come an entire continent of Africa can take its brightest leaders to sit with a small country, a president that represents nothing in the world? Excuse me, I'm a very big friend of France. I have a very close relationship with France. But I'm speaking now as somebody who's from Africa and also from the US to say, it makes no sense to me. And this shows what I said earlier. When you don't take responsibility of what your future should be like, I mean, somebody else will do it for you. Why aren't our leaders in Africa bringing all the young Africans talk about our commonality, our common purpose, and our shared responsibility to what we need to do to change Africa? Why are we waiting for somebody else to do it? If one African president did that, oh yeah, now I have an opinion. Because that's how it's supposed to be. I said that just a month ago. I was invited by the State Department to speak at the 10-year anniversary of the YALI program, Young African Leaders Initiative, started by President Obama. More than 10,000 young people in Africa was connected. And the program is being led by the Wilson Center and the State Department in Washington, teaching them how to be great leaders tomorrow. How to change Africa, how to organize, how to do this, how to do... I tell them, wait a minute here, man. I'm talking now to young Africans. I say, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should question now that you really have a responsibility. I don't want my children tomorrow to be taught how to be great men when I was here. It's like I have a child, a son, and you come to my house to teach my son how to be a man, how to treat women. When I'm a grown man in my house, I should be doing that, not you. And what is the interest of France or the US to create our leaders for the interest? So tomorrow they can say, yeah, I'm a good, I have to protect the interests of France, I have to protect the interests of the US. But what about the interests of Africa? Who's thinking about it? Who's protecting it? Who's preparing the children of Africa? What will my son tell me tomorrow if another man raised my son to be a man? How will he look at me, man? So I was very disturbed and discouraged, and
It's interesting that you mentioned that because obviously there's the challenges that we face, in terms of managing relationship with external partners and external interest groups. We're lucky to have people like you that are working on building leaders on the continent. We also have people like Fred Swanaker that founded the African Leadership Academy, African Leadership Universities, that are working on kind of growing leaders on the ground as well. But we went outside to look at what's going on outside in the view of Africa, but let's talk about our own internal things as well. Because of the state of African politics, many Africans see getting involved in government, unfortunately, as an opportunity to enrich themselves and their families rather than serving the public, right? So what are your thoughts on this? What do we as Africans need to do to remedy this internal issue that we're facing as well?
But what we need is transformational leadership, man. We need leadership that, leaders that come to serve the greater interests of our people. That sums it all up. When you have transformational leadership, when you have leaders that come in to serve, not to be served, it changes everything, the spectrum. Because when you're not worrying about how much money you put in your bank account, when you're not worried about how many houses you're going to buy, because you already got that. When you're not worried about how much I'm going to travel around the world and enjoy myself, but you already did that, then your position in leading is service. And that's what our continent needs. Today, we elect leaders who only, most of them, think about their well-being and their family and close friends' well-being. There's nothing about the greater good of the community. And this is a problem, because when you have the resources of the country end up in a bank account of a president or in a room of a president. Imagine a president of Guinea get caught and 30 million, what they said, found 30 million dollars or euros, whatever they said. Imagine for a country as Guinea that doesn't have, majority of people don't have $1 a day to eat. One man holds 30 million US dollars in his bank, in his house, in his room. It's catastrophic, man. And if they said 30 million, that means it was 200 million or more than that. So if every leader who's supposed to manage the goods of the country and the natural resources and lead the country is pocketing money, what about the children on the bottom? What about their future? What about their avenir? What about the healthcare system? What about the schools? How many schools we're going to build? How many hospitals? Decent hospitals. What about the agriculture? What about the energy sector? You know what I'm saying? So all of those things are left deteriorating because everything that needs to be used to build them is building somebody else's ego. That left every room now for training for those young people. And because of, I don't know how you say it in French, that the je sais pas, de vide, je sais pas how you say it, because there's space there, then what happened? It brings Europe and everybody in China, everybody now, they come and take and say, okay, I'm going to teach you this, I'm going to give you this, because those who are supposed to do it, they don't do it. It's like a parent who give up their responsibility. It's going to be somebody, and you have some beautiful girls. You don't teach them nothing. You don't provide nothing for them. They go out, they're beautiful. The young guys see them, or the older guys see them, start providing for them. Next thing, they're using them for all kinds of stuff, and you can't say nothing. But if you provide it for them at the house, they know who they are. They know what they represent. An older man can't get them, just give them money, and then they follow the man. Because they know their value. They'll go get their own. But if they're going to be with you, it's going to be about value, not because of money. That's exactly what's happening, because lack of opportunities is the reason why these young Africans jump on all these opportunities the US, France, China, everybody's giving them, while our leaders getting bigger, getting more money, and the bank accounts is more bigger, you know what I'm saying? And now the country in the bottom gets nothing. This also is the core of why our countries cannot move. And it's your responsibility, you young people, to fix it. We have to rewrite the history of Africa. And we can't rewrite the history of Africa without addressing this issue of leadership. Because the best of us are not in politics. The best of us are not in leadership position. The best of us are in the diaspora building other people's countries. And we leave mediocrity leading our countries. It's just the honest thing to say. Majority of our leaders are surrounded by mediocrity, and they like it because they tell them what they want to hear, they sing their birds for them, and they do not tell them the truth. And if you're mediocre and you want to run a country, it's nothing going to happen. You know? So I'm concerned about it. That's why I'm always doing formation and training these young people to see the other sides of leadership. You know, leadership is about leading. My style of leadership is about we lead by showing, not by telling or by saying. Show me what you do. Don't show me what you're saying. It's not about what you're saying, it's about what you do. If I say let's go farm, they got to see me actually farming. But you have policymakers in farming, minister of farms, presidents talking about we need to change our farms, and they've never been in a farm or own a farm. You cannot change something you don't understand.
Yeah, we could be sitting here listening to you speak and having this conversation for hours and hours, to be quite honest. But unfortunately, our interview is coming to an end. And I guess we can wrap up with this final question. We're wondering if you had to sort of pinpoint two fundamental issues that the global African community should be focusing on right now. What would they be, and how can we unite the global African community to find collective solutions to those issues?
I think the first two things they need to focus on is transfer of knowledge, because you guys have what it takes. Everything you have here that you've gained as knowledge, we need it home. So you gotta find a way to transfer that knowledge. Even if it's like 1 or 2 people, do it, please. Create a project. Do a mentorship program with Facebook, Instagram. One hour a month or a week doesn't hurt you. Do something to create another you back home. Okay? The second point is you have to work on financing back home. Invest at home. So it's got to be transfer of knowledge and an investment back home. Now lastly, how to unite the continent here, in the diaspora and the outside, is by doing what you guys are doing. You know, we all know the problem. We all know what needs to be done. What's not happening is we're not doing anything about it, other than talking about it. But talk is cheap. It gets nothing done. So what we need to do is just take actions, and things will happen naturally. You could have said, oh, my sister has the cameras. I don't need nobody. We're going to just do this. Sister, we're going to do this thing ourselves. We have access to somebody like Thione. If you have access to Thione, you got access to Akon, you got access to Akon, then you got access to Biden, you got access to other people. We don't need the other people. We don't need Fatima, we don't need Abdul Aziz. We're going to do this thing by ourselves. Many Africans will think like that. But you showing the model. You say, okay, we're going to reach out to Abdul Aziz, he's in London. You know, Fatima Lee is in here, but she has a different background because she's Senegalese and Guinean. You Cameroonian, and etc. So now you're bringing Africa together in your own level. That's why I said the conference the other day, start small to build big. Because that model you're building small is defining where the bigger spectrum going to be. It's like this, it happens all the time. We want Africa United? Right now we have Africa United in this talk. Because in this interview, your background, and everybody you know in Cameroon, the Cameroonian background, will be able to watch. The same thing in my background. The same thing for Fatims, Guineans and Senegalese and the other, and Abdulaziz and etc. So now you are bringing us, without even knowing that you're bringing us in an interview. Together we are united now. If everybody do that in their level, imagine the force we can have today. I don't do interviews for a long time. I don't do no press. Senegal since 2016. But when I fully ask, I gotta do it because I gotta support my sister and you guys. 2 hours I'm here talking to you because I want to support what you do, because this is what I'm talking about every day in conferences and you doing it. On doit se donner la force. And she's giving me also, supporting me in my social media and other stuff that helping my community to see a better things of what we're doing, to get my message across. Around that, she's also investing in JeufZone. So we giving each other forces. This is Africa United. She's not from Senegal. She's actually from Cameroon and here. Nature has made it that we connected. So now when we're connected, we have to be each other's resources. That's the unity that we need. And I commend you, to conclude, for what you do, and please continue to do this. Oprah Winfrey started with just a small interview. Even though they told her, well, you're too fat, you're young, you're a woman, you're a black woman, you're not good looking. She talks about it every day. She's not ashamed of it. But she kept interviewing people, giving platform for people to tell their stories. That's what Oprah did. She didn't do nothing else. Today she's the richest black, most powerful also black woman in the world by giving a platform to people like you're doing right now to tell their stories. And in telling their stories, they're inspiring others to want to tell their stories. But today, you are creating something that can be a spark of the stories that might change the continent. And you have the greatest thing that we don't have is technology. And you have somebody like Afoli here who can produce this to make it the best. That kids can have access to it, young people or people, everybody can get that inspiration. So bravo, and I wish you the best for it. And I will always be here to be your big brother to support in everything I can do.
Well, thank you so much, Brother Thione. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This was a brilliant episode. We're very grateful and hope to see you soon, perhaps in person.
Pleasure, always.
THIONE Niang, eternal optimist, thank you for your time.